I'd like to point out. One, this place we're now staying on, this is known as Museum Island. Yes, it is an island right here in the middle of the city. Germans are pretty direct. They name stuff exactly what it is. So they call this Museum Island. Why? Because it's an island with museums on it. How clever. Now, there are 4 museums to be found on this island. The first one up front here with all the columns, that is the Altius Museum. Specializes in ancient Roman, Greek, and Egyptian artifacts. The second museum on the island is the Neues Gallery. That is a painting gallery that has a lot of paintings of Berlin prior to World War I and World War II. The third museum on the island, which you can see from here with the crane coming out of it, that is by far the best museum on Museum Island because that happens to be the Pergamon Museum. Now the Pergamon Museum is called thus because inside it has the ancient Pergamon altar, rebuilt over 2 stories tall inside of that museum. Around the outsides of the altar is a sculpture battle of the Greek gods versus the Titans. We are very lucky to have this piece of architecture today because in the end of World War II, Nazis tried to remove the thing from the museum and use it as a tank barrier to stop the Soviets from taking the city. Luckily, they were unable to do such, and today you can still see it inside of the Pergamon Museum. That museum is also home to the ancient Ishtar Gates of Babylon, those mosaic blue gates that were once part of Babylon back when it was a wonder of the ancient world with the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. So if you get a chance to go to any of these museums, try to at least visit the Pergamon. Now the last museum on the island is the Bodhi Sculpture Museum. If you really enjoy sculpture,
Gallery here in Berlin, and this is an art exhibit from 1990 where they kept part of the Berlin Wall up, and then artists from all over the world decorated the wall with various paintings and portraits and stuff. And actually this is kind of cool. You can see the profile of the wall, the way, I think this was Gen 3 where they put actually some piping, irrigation piping on top, so you couldn't wrap around and get a good handle. They started doing that instead of barbed wire because barbed wire was helping people get up. We are now at the Soviet War Memorial for World War II here in Berlin, known as one of the largest and most impressive World War II memorials or monuments in Europe. Alright, and this is the mound at the end of the memorial, and this has a sculpture on top of a Soviet soldier with a giant sword crushing the swastika and holding an infant, a German infant, and this is actually the gravesite of 26,000 Soviet soldiers that never made it home. Okay, this is the Kaiser Wilhelm Gedächtniskirche here in Berlin. The church was bombed out in '43, and they decided not to rebuild it exactly, but instead make it a new church. And this structure right here is part of the new church. It is the new church. And behind the old church remains, there's a tower, a bell tower. So they left the bombed out remains as a reminder of the consequences of war, and then rebuilt around it. This is the view of the Reichstag, actually just back down on the street here. The Brandenburg Gate is right there. We're now on top of the Reichstag here in Berlin, on top of the parliamentary building. There's the dome, and you can see the skyline. It's a bit rainy right now, but nearby you can see the Brandenburg Gate. The dome was actually finished in 1997. And I never knew this until today, actually, that you can see a conical structure inside the dome. That's a bunch of mirrors, and actually they use it to like redirect natural light into the center of the parliamentary area. And the whole idea of the dome and being able to see inside the parliament room is so that it's government that's transparent, so Germans can look in on their parliament and see what they're actually doing.